Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to this episode of our show. This is your host, Keith Doherty. Today our special guest is top real estate agent Priscilla Tharpe of Coldwell Banker, Hartung and Noblin Incorporated, based out of Tallahassee, Florida. Priscilla is a native of Tallahassee and has been a real estate agent full-time for 20 years. As one of their city's top 1 to 2% agents in production every year, she is known for her expertise in their local market. She is a CRS, a Certified Residential Specialist, and a GRI, among others. In 2006, she was the #1 top producing agent of all agents in their Tallahassee Board of Realtors. Starting as their Realtor Board's Rookie of the Year 20 years ago, she has never looked back. She sees her role as a real estate counselor, and sometimes her advice to clients is not to buy or sell. Her goal is to always do what is best for the buyer or seller, and that trust is the reason people come to her, the very reason for her success. All right, with all that said, Priscilla, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
And Priscilla, if we could start for our listeners, what led you into real estate? Was it something that you knew you always wanted to do, or did you maybe stumble into it?
Really, from the time I was in my 20s, I knew I would dive in when the time was right. My father was a commercial real estate agent, and my mother, once I was driving, was a residential real estate agent. So I saw it firsthand in a lot of ways. And I knew I wanted to do it, but I also knew it had to be at the right time of my life. So when the opportunity and the time was right, I jumped right in. I was Rookie of the Year that year for my board, and I never looked back.
It sounds like so you were almost kind of raised into it, like, just to happen. It was around you, so you didn't have a choice but to assimilate to it.
Exactly. It was sort of, sometimes it was dinner time. Not much. My parents kept it away, not a lot of dinner time conversation, but enough that it was common to me and normal to me.
Excellent. And what personal attributes, traits, or qualities do you think have most contributed to the success that you've had?
Well, in my case, I was in my 40s with children when I went into the business full-time, and there wasn't much that could really faze me at that point. Having 3 kids then, 2 of whom were adolescents, was kind of a great preparation for being successful in guiding people, explaining options. I found that being communicative, calm, approachable, and relaxed have been some of the best traits that transfer to helping clients, buyers, and sellers, both in understanding the process and the options. I mean, real estate can be very exciting. It's a very emotional time, but it's also a very tense time for many buyers and sellers. And I see my job as a counselor. And after 20-plus years as a top producing agent, I mainly help customers, clients, keep perspective as we move along this process. The role of the real estate counselor has been used by many of my clients. I'll put that in quote. The role of, quote, real estate counselor, unquote, has been used by many of my clients when they describe me to others. So that sort of tells me that they are using my expertise in guiding them in what to do. So those traits of being calm, being approachable, and taking things step by step have been the best for me.
Excellent. Yeah, I can definitely relate to the children's situation, especially we have our 14 and 16-year-old girls in the house still, and if I can get through this, I think, like you said, just about anything in life is pretty easy to get through after having 2 girls in their teenage years, for sure.
Right, and when people are going through a real estate transaction, it's a lot of that same drama. Very high drama, very intense, short-lived but intense, and they need someone who can keep them calm. And you see some agents who become an adversarial scenario. It's our team against the other team, and it's really not. I've found it's working together to meet the goal which we're trying to meet, of either getting the house sold or getting the house purchased.
Excellent. And do you think you could give our listeners an example of when these traits have played a role in your path towards success?
Yeah, I would say, again, since I was a child, I've been told I was very practical and calm. And I think all people have an innate personality that we're born with. We can't really change. And apparently that's mine. I'm not talking about learned systems, but kind of genetic makeups. And we kind of all recognize it, where you're detailed or outgoing or spontaneous or focused. And in my case, my basic kind of personality type lets me step back from the everyday real estate craziness of buyers, sellers, multiple offers, lender issues, title and appraisal problems, and really just help my clients and customers move through each one of those issues in a calm and detailed way. And I'm told this very often, so I do believe it's true, and it's one of the reasons that people ask me to help with them with their transactions. And another way this is verified for me is that I notice that the feedback and the recommendations that come, whether it's internet or letters written to me or whatever, from customers about me, often state those qualities of calmness, assurance, dedication when they recommend me to their families and friends. So that's, for me, translated to a lot of my success. And one of the main things I've heard is that she was interested in what was best for me, not in a sale. And I often actually recommend buyers or sellers not to sell or buy at this time. I think there's this misconception that we just want them to buy or sell. But I look at their whole portfolio, so to speak, not in the sense of their taxes or their investments, but their portfolio of where they are in life. So when a prospective buyer tells me that they're here for a job and it may last a year and a half or two and they're on an upward movement, I often tell them, you're really better off renting. By the time you purchase, pay your closing costs, and come back to me in a year and a half and 2 years. I can't get you back out for what's back in unless the market goes really crazy, and I can't count on that. So I advise them, in your case, you're better off renting. Or sometimes if they're a seller and they want to sell right then, maybe they're going through something that makes them want to do that, but that's really not what they need to do. They need to maybe reallocate their assets or pay off some debt, and they can keep the house that they're in because they may end up worse than they were before. So I try to analyze that, and I see my role as helping them to see the options that are best for them.
And obviously, with 20 years in the business, I'm sure that you've obviously weathered the up and down markets that always tend to come. So can you talk about some of the adversities and trials that you've had to overcome in order to have the success that you have?
Yes, I mean, everybody has to enter it at some point as a kind of a newbie, and I did too, and I had teenagers at home. And one of the things that you have to make a decision in this business is, what am I going to give up and how much time am I going to give to it, because it can consume you and you can do it 24 hours, 7 days a week. So, for instance, in my case, I decided I was not going to work 7 days a week, and I was going to not work every weekend. I would do every other Sunday that I would show property or do open houses, but I wasn't going to just basically run off and leave my family. So it meant I had to give up some income during those earlier years. But it didn't hurt me. I found that the people that I worked with were appreciative of that, and they basically went by my schedule for the most part. If they were coming in from out of town and that was a weekend I couldn't do it, I just, I'm in a large agency. I found another coworker that could help them. I don't regret any of that at all. But I will tell you that during the worst of the recession, I'm knock on wood, I'm not trying to brag about it, but my income really didn't change that much. And the reason is I had a huge book of business, and the people that were hurt mostly in the recession downtime were those who had bought recently. My clients had been mine for 18 years at the time, so they were buying and selling because they bought back in the 90s. So they weren't affected. Their houses weren't affected by the rise. But if you bought in 04 to 06 and then tried to sell in 08, those were the people that were affected. So it really didn't affect my income that much.
I guess, obviously through all these different, adversities and trials that you've kind of walked through, what kept you going despite these obstacles? Why didn't you give up?
Well, I loved it first. In fact, sometimes I have to make myself come home, even though I love my family. It's just, if it's in you like that and you just have a passion for it, then it's like anything else that people have a passion for. You have to call it quit. You have to call the end of the day at some point, not just keep on, because you can burn out, and I've seen it. So first of all, my passion for it, and the counselor role. I really, really enjoyed that role of counseling people. I mean, you don't get paid for counseling. You only get paid when there's a sale. But I found that giving people that advice, my best advice after years of honing it, is what they're after, because there's so much out there on the internet. There's so much in magazines, but they don't know who to believe or what to believe. So even if they don't know me, for the most part, they've been recommended to me from someone, and they trust my advice after we talk. So that's been probably my biggest help, and what I would encourage other agents to do if they're looking, is to create a feeling of being a counselor.
Yeah, I think that, with other guests that we've had on the show, that the common theme of the most successful agents like yourself, no one ever says, I focus on, money. I focus on, closing the deal and getting commissions. Everybody, especially some of the most successful agents, and we've had an agent in California, and she's done like $4 billion in transactions. So it's significant, but the main common denominator between you and even her is her helping and serving others, and being that counselor, and educating them, and really being an advocate for them to understand what they really need, and helping them fill that need, really. And the commission is a byproduct of you providing that value and offering that service to them.
That's exactly right, Keith. And I know this probably sounds stupid. Business people or my CPA would probably think of it horrors, but I never look ahead to see how many closings I have that month or what it's going to. I never have, and I still don't. I just work along each day, moving toward those closings, and sometimes, for various reasons, they fall apart. Hardly ever, but occasionally it does happen still. And it just doesn't bother me, because I feel like, well, it wasn't meant to be then. So I think you do have to have that attitude. One of the things that I'm most concerned about for, maybe this will help some of the new folks coming in, is that when you come into this business, you are your own business. It is, yourself, Inc., basically, or LLC, whoever you are. And you must have backup money to get yourself through the first, I would say, year and a half to 2 years. And we see it coming into our office where people come in and they're like, oh, well, I'm going to make money next month, right? I was like, no, you're not going to make any money for 6 months at all, probably. So if we could get that information out to people, then they would understand that it's the same thing as if you went out and opened a dance studio or a coffee shop or whatever you're doing. Those people have a plan, and they have money set aside to get them through until you're a thriving business, and that's just critical.
Absolutely. And some great advice there, like you said. I think because of the barrier to entry, people look at probably people like yourself and be like, oh, look at Priscilla. She's has these listings. She has the success. I'm going to go take a little bit of training. I'm going to pass the state test. I'm going to have my license. I'm going to wake up tomorrow with, a suitcase of cash under my pillow. But in reality, it just doesn't work that way, right? But that's the perception, I think, sometimes, that it's that easy. And obviously, it's not.
Well, it's not. And real estate is one of those. It's one of the top industries where you have the most people get in and the most people get out in the first year, because it's tough, hard, long hours, and at the same time it's very rewarding. But you must have backup. You cannot just step out there and expect to do it right away. You have to build these relationships. I had to do it, just like everybody else did. So if that helps somebody, I hope it can help some young person, because I look forward to having, people that are passionate about it the same way I felt like I was when I went in.
Absolutely. And I guess on top of that, looking forward, what do you see your vision for your career and your business, say, over the next 5 years?
Well, I'm at a level I really want to sustain for the next 5 years, and I don't see any problem with sustaining it based on that. Of course, keeping up with all the constant changes, and even just 10 years ago, if you had something new introduced into the systems, it might be once a year. Now it's once a month. So it's a constant learning curve, but it's exciting because I think that's what keeps people on their toes, and certainly our population is working longer than the day of hitting 65 and taking a retirement check, and I don't know whatever people do if they're not working. It is not going to work for me, mainly because I have these clients and I love working with them. I'm not ready to stop. One thing that you do have to do, I think, as you get older, is you have to carve out again that time for yourself, because otherwise, I've got more people that want to meet me that I can meet with. So you have to carve out that time and say, well, I could be busy every day for 7 days a week, but I just can't. So in a big company like I'm in, then got some great people coming up behind and that I can trust and refer folks out to them when I'm out of town or whatever, because that's really the only way I can get away is to get out of town.
I guess looking at that, obviously you, with your reputation and the amount of experience you have a lot of referral, you have a lot of repeat business. You don't have to, probably market as hard as obviously a new agent that's up and coming. But obviously, like you mentioned too, there's always changes. And like you said, one day it's Facebook, and then it's Twitter, and then it's Snapchat, and then it's whatever. It's always compounding the next thing upon the next thing. So what do you feel is the best way that you market yourself?
The funny thing is, I probably spend as much, according to my broker, I do. I mean, as almost anybody, because I still believe in print ad, and the reason I believe in it is all print ads have an online presence now. If you pick up any newspaper, any publication, they have an online presence. So when I pay to put that ad in, it's living, let's just use Homes and Land as an example. For a while, we were like, oh, who's going to use that? He's pick it up at the grocery store. Yes, but I get constant sales and leads from Homes and Land. I'm in Florida. Somebody's in Seattle. They're looking at their Homes and Land, and they're going to on the online presence, and they're calling me about my listing. So I spend a lot of money still, and you must spend it to make it. That's the one thing that I would try to tell other people that are trying to get into the business is, you can get into it, but as soon as you can, there needs to be a percentage of your budget that goes immediately back into advertising. It's critical.
Excellent. Yes, great advice. So I think, too, that, and we've kind of touched on some of these points throughout the conversation today about people's perception of real estate agents, obviously because of the barrier to entry and, what they actually bring to the table. So what do you think the biggest misconception or myth people have about working with a real estate agent?
I would say that basically that somehow we're trying to make them buy something that they don't want. At least, at the beginning, I don't really work with people that way anymore. I mean, most people come to me, but I think at the beginning, when you're sitting in you're young, you're sitting in an open house, and then you want to call those people back afterwards to see how they like the house or if you can help them with others. So people are, suspicious of that. They really don't want to give away that much, and so what I think that you can do in this scenario is just try to maintain contact with them. No pushing, no calling, just emails, a text if they like to get text, however they like to be in touch base and say, hey, I saw this house that just came out. I thought of you. That sort of contact, that's what they want. So I think we have to give the public what they want.
And let's say you get a call from either a family member or a friend, and they're in another state, and they want to sell their home. Now, I understand, obviously, especially as an experienced real estate professional, you probably can have, referrals and you have a lot of connections. But in general, what advice would you give them about selecting an agent that could best serve their needs? Kind of like you talk about how you take care of your people. What would you tell them to look for in an agent? I
would probably first tell them to look at agents who are marketing in their area. I mean, if for instance, in a city, a fairly large city, they're sort of divided in quadrants usually. It doesn't mean that people can't cross over, but there tend to be agents that farm or market, really know the inventory in specific areas. And if, for instance, I get calls a lot of time from, we have little bedroom communities. They want to go down there. I refer those out. I was like, I'm sorry, but I can't do the best job for you because I don't know that market. It's just not in my head the way the ones here right in Tallahassee are. So I'm not giving them the best service. So I would say for them to look for people who market in their area. It's kind of site-oriented, and then do the research to see who's selling the most in the last couple of years in their area, then call and try to interview them. You can interview them on the phone if they want and get a feel for that person because you're going to be working with that person, and personality issues are important. Some people do very well with certain personality types and not with others, and most of us are that way. So have somebody that you feel comfortable with, meet them, follow up, and ask for references, and call those references and ask them how it went.
Excellent advice. And Priscilla, if somebody needs real estate services in the Tallahassee area, what's the best way that they can find out more information about you and how you can help them?
Well, they can always go to the websites. I actually have two, but PriscillaTharpe.com or HomesandTally.com. I can reach me by email, phone, text, sometimes Facebook. I am one of those people that I do not use my Facebook for business. I'm there to touch base with family and friends and see my friends' grandchildren and that sort of thing. So phone, email, text, and I'll be glad to talk with you.
Excellent. Well, Priscilla, we certainly want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come and share your real estate experience with everybody. And if you are looking for an agent, especially in the Tallahassee area, we'll have all of Priscilla's contact information below this interview. We'll have her website and any other contact information so that you can find out more information about her and how she can help you. So with that said, everybody, until our next show, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.